Hi, welcome to Real Circle. I'm Stephanie Massey, and this is Libby. She's hiding her face today. She does not want to participate. This is Real Circle, where we talk about real estate in real ways, and I'm happy that you've joined for today's episode because it's one of my favorite topics, which is contracts, which I know is different from state to state, but I'm just going to kind of give you a little basis of contracts for us. I'm currently an EXP agent. I am in Arizona, and contracts are probably the most favorite part of my entire job. I love the contracts, and I can testify that if you ask any of my clients that have worked with me, they know that I know the contracts very well and the importance of the contracts. So, just wanted to share a little bit of those important things with you guys today that will hopefully help you on your real estate journey. The first and most important thing is not underestimating the importance of the contracts and knowing the contracts. I feel like we learn a lot in real estate school, a lot of rules, a lot of different things that we don't use in a daily transaction, but contracts we use in every single transaction. And the importance of knowing those contracts and what they read is huge and can make and break any deal and can have consequences, good or bad. So I suggest taking contract writing classes. I know that when we first get our license here in Arizona, they require that. I have since taken additional classes just so that I can understand the contract so that I can negotiate the way that's best for my client and know what the contracts say. So many times I refer back to the contracts. In fact, I have an entire note in my phone where it references different parts of the contracts, whether that is that I need to address a timeline or I need to address how the home needs to be or we need to address getting in for inspections. So many important things are in the Arizona real estate contract that you can use for your benefit. That's why we have the contracts and why it's all in writing. So make sure as an agent you study those contracts. They're lengthy, but they're not hard to understand. The verbiage is very clear and very black and white. So if you haven't done so, read the contracts, reread the contracts, study them, and know the importance of them. I absolutely love this part of contracts. Sometimes it's shocking to me how many agents don't know what the contracts reads, whether I reference it and then they rebuttal it and then I pull the contract and I show them the line. It's very easy. Everyone has access to the contract. So if you're a real estate agent, make sure you know what the contracts read so that you can protect your buyer or your seller. It can cost you, like I said, consequences, good or bad. It could cost you and it could cost your client. So knowing the terms is very important. The second thing is additional terms and addendums. This is when things get really fun because sometimes agents, I've gotten addendums that don't even make sense or that are so broad, even benzers that are so not detailed and specific. I recommend my client not signing them because I'm not going to put my client in a position where they don't know what they were supposed to do or the other party had different intentions of what is actually written. So I am very particular. Even recently in a transaction, we had an addendum that was specific to needing some certain things, and the agent tried to write it and sent it over, and I said, no way is my client going to be signing this. It does not specifically state what needs to be done or how it's going to be done. I suggest writing it like this. I actually sent my suggestion over, and guess what? They took it, copied, pasted it, put on an addendum, and sent it back for my client to sign, which is ideal for me because then I know that I can tell my client with confidence that you're signing something that makes sense. Additional terms can be obviously on the purchase contract and addendums, and the additional term addendums. So make sure that you know the details and that those details that are written in are specific and make sense. The other thing that is very important, especially in Arizona contracts, is making sure when you first initially have that contract, purchase contract, that the right boxes are checked, which addendums are incorporated with the purchase contract. I've had so many clients send over a seller compensation addendum but didn't mark it on the purchase contract. It has to be tied together. They have to reference that in the residential purchase contract. And so again, this just goes back to making sure you as an agent, if you want to be successful and you want to be prepared, you've got to know the contracts. Another thing is contingencies. There are lots of fine details in Arizona with contingencies for the seller, and making sure that my seller understands what those are before signing a contingency. It goes along with backup offers too. So make sure that you read all the contracts, that you know that you can explain to your buyer or your seller exactly what they're doing and what they're signing. Another thing that's very, very important in real estate is our time frames, knowing our time frames, knowing our dates. The way I like to do this is I have a calendar. I make sure immediately when we go into contract that I break it down for my client, exactly the dates, those important dates and time frames and when things are due. And then I also add it on my personal calendar to make sure that I don't miss anything, because that can have some big consequences again if you miss a time frame, because the contracts are what the contracts read. So make sure that you know the time frames for those contracts. And the last thing I want to add is don't be afraid to add your broker. If things get messy, which they have many times for us and our clients, and there's maybe a disagreement between the agents or what was said on the contracts, it's easy enough to put brokers on an email, include everybody, and get some help, because essentially the brokers are the ones who it's going to refer back to anyways and getting things cleaned up. And so make sure you have a good connection with your broker so that if something does come up within the contracts that you need help with, that they're there for you and that they can help you. I am so grateful for my brokers. My brokers at eXp are available 24/7. I can actually go into eXp World and talk to a broker at any point that I need, which is huge, because sometimes late at night, maybe something's come up and by 11:59 it's going to be due and I need to ask a broker how to handle it or what to respond with. So make sure that you have that good connection with your broker or a team leader or a sponsor. Reach out if you need somebody. That's the easiest way to get help, especially when we're working with these big contracts. So know the importance of the contracts. Make sure you read them, study them, memorize them, whatever it takes, because the contracts are very important in real estate world.